The moment Emma Chen walked into the conference room, her heels clicking sharply against the marble floor, the room fell silent. Everyone knew she wasn't in the mood for small talk today. Her long black coat swayed with her quick strides, and her cold eyes scanned the faces of her board members like a hawk circling its prey. On the surface, Emma was everything people imagined a CEO should be: fierce, brilliant, and untouchable. But no one knew the secret she carried in her heart. Her family had given her an ultimatum: get married within 6 months, or they would strip her of her position and hand the company over to her cousin, the one man she despised most. Emma's fingers tightened around the leather folder in her hands as she took her seat at the head of the table. She had worked too hard to let her life be controlled by an arranged marriage. Love wasn't something Emma believed in anymore, not after being betrayed by the man she had once trusted most. But her family didn't care about her scars or her ambition. All they cared about was appearances. To them, a CEO without a husband was incomplete. That night, Emma sat alone in her penthouse, staring at the city lights. A glass of wine sat untouched on the table beside her. She had a plan brewing in her mind, a reckless, desperate plan. If her family wanted a fiancé, she would give them one, but not a real one. No, Emma was going to hire someone, a fake boyfriend, to play the role just long enough for her to buy herself more time and figure out a way to stop their manipulation for good. Scrolling through resumes wasn't getting her anywhere. All the candidates her assistant recommended were too polished, too eager, and too easily bought off. Emma needed someone different, someone who wouldn't fall for her wealth or use her for his own gains. She needed someone invisible, someone forgettable, someone with nothing to lose. And then fate stepped in. The next morning, while walking through the company lobby, Emma's sharp eyes caught sight of a young man in a janitor's uniform struggling to lift a heavy box. His cap was pulled low, hiding most of his face, but something about his quiet determination made her pause. He wasn't like the other staff members who flinched when she passed by. Instead, he kept working, his movements steady and calm. "Hey, you," Emma said, her voice cutting through the air like a blade. The man froze, then slowly looked up. For a moment, their eyes met, and Emma felt something strange stir in her chest. His eyes were dark, deep pools that held a quiet confidence she didn't expect from someone in his position. "Yes, ma'am." His voice was calm, respectful, but there was no fear in it. "What's your name?" "Liam," he replied simply. Emma studied him for a moment longer, her mind racing. He was perfect. No one would suspect she'd choose someone like him. That was the point. He didn't look like someone who could stand toe-to-toe with her powerful family, and that made him the ideal shield. "Follow me," she said. Liam hesitated, then wiped his hands on a rag and followed her toward the elevator. Other employees watched in confusion as the icy CEO led the janitor upstairs. When they reached her office, Emma turned to face him. "I have a proposition for you, one that could change your life." Liam raised an eyebrow. "What kind of proposition?" "I need a fake boyfriend," Emma said bluntly. "Someone to act as my fiancé for the next few months. You'll attend family dinners, public events, and anything else necessary to convince everyone we're together. In return, I'll pay you generously, enough to take care of whatever debts or troubles you have." Liam didn't react the way she expected. Most people would have jumped at the chance, or at least looked surprised, but he simply stared at her, his expression unreadable. "And why me?" he asked after a pause. "Because no one would ever believe I'd choose you." "Which makes it all the more convincing," Emma replied coolly. Liam smirked faintly, and for a moment, Emma wondered if she'd made a mistake. There was something about his confidence that felt dangerous, but she brushed the thought aside. He was just a janitor. She was the one in control here. "All right," Liam said finally. "I'll do it." Relief washed over Emma, though she didn't let it show. "Good. We'll start immediately. My family dinner is in 2 days. You'll need a suit and a backstory." But as Emma began outlining the plan, she didn't notice the glint in Liam's eyes, the one that hinted he wasn't as simple as he appeared. Because Liam wasn't just a janitor, he was Liam Joe, the hidden heir to a massive corporate empire of his own. After years of living in the shadows, he had taken this job at Emma's company to observe her from up close. He never expected she'd be the one to approach him, let alone ask him to pretend to be her boyfriend. But maybe this was fate. Maybe this was his chance not only to protect his identity, but also to get closer to the woman who had unknowingly stolen his heart from the very first moment he saw her. And as Emma turned to pour herself another glass of wine, Liam's smirk deepened. Let's see who ends up fooling who, he murmured under his breath. Little did Emma know, her fake boyfriend might just become the one person who could break down her walls. But when the truth of Liam's identity finally comes out, will she see it as betrayal or the greatest act of love? The game had begun, and neither of them was ready for how dangerous or how intoxicating it would become. 2 days later, Emma stood in front of the full-length mirror in her bedroom, adjusting the diamond earrings her mother had given her. Her reflection stared back at her, calm, composed, every strand of hair perfectly in place. On the outside, she looked like a woman ready to take on the world, but deep down, her heart wouldn't stop racing. Tonight wasn't just another family dinner. Tonight was the first time she would present her boyfriend to the Chen family. And if even one detail seemed off, her father would see right through the act. Why am I even nervous? She muttered to herself, picking up her clutch. It's not like I care what they think, but that wasn't entirely true. For years, Emma had fought to prove her worth not as someone's daughter or someone's future wife, but as the rightful leader of Chen Corporation. And yet, no matter how many deals she closed or how many crises she solved, her parents still measured her success by whether or not she could keep a man by her side. Her phone buzzed. Liam, waiting downstairs. Don't take too long, Miss CEO. Emma frowned at the message. There was something about Liam's tone, casual, almost teasing, that she couldn't quite figure out. Since agreeing to her offer, he had surprised her at every turn. He didn't ask questions about the money. He didn't seem nervous about faking affection in front of her high-profile family. If anything, he seemed amused. When she stepped into the elevator and saw him standing there in a perfectly tailored black suit, Emma's breath caught for half a second. The man in front of her didn't look like a janitor anymore. The cheap cap and worn-out boots were gone, replaced by polished shoes, a crisp white shirt, and a quiet elegance that didn't belong to someone of his status. You clean up well, Emma said, masking her thoughts with a neutral tone. Was that a compliment? Liam asked, his lips curving into a faint smile. Careful, Miss Chen. You might make me think you actually like me. Emma rolled her eyes but didn't reply. She couldn't deny there was something magnetic about the way he carried himself. Still, she reminded herself that this was all an act, a business arrangement, nothing more. As the car pulled up to her family's mansion, Emma's jaw tightened. She could already picture the looks on their faces. Her father's cold eyes scanning Liam from head to toe, her mother's polite smile hiding 1,000 judgments, and her cousin Adrian's smug expression as he waited for her to slip up. Remember the plan, Emma whispered as they stepped out of the car. Stay close to me, keep your answers simple, and don't let anyone push you around. They'll test you. Relax, Liam said calmly, offering her his arm. I know how to play the part. Inside the mansion, the atmosphere was as suffocating as Emma remembered. Crystal chandeliers cast a golden glow over the long dining table, where her family members were already seated. Her father, Chen Ming'e, looked up as they entered, his expression unreadable. Emma, he said coolly. You're late. Apologies, Emma replied smoothly. We were caught in traffic. May I introduce Liam Zhou, my fiancé? All eyes turned to Liam. For a moment, there was silence, broken only by the soft clink of wine glasses. A janitor? Adrian muttered under his breath, just loud enough for Emma to hear. But before Emma could respond, Liam stepped forward and extended his hand to her father. Mr. Chen, it's an honor to finally meet you, he said, his tone respectful but steady. Emma has told me a lot about you. Chen Ming'e didn't take the hand immediately. He studied Liam with a sharp gaze, as though trying to peel away whatever mask he was wearing. Then slowly, he shook it. Emma's mother, Mrs. Chen, gave a polite smile. Emma, you didn't mention he was so young. Age doesn't determine loyalty, Liam replied gently, his voice calm but confident. I care about Emma, and that's what matters. Emma blinked in surprise. She hadn't expected Liam to speak so naturally, so convincingly. As the dinner progressed, the questions came like arrows. What's your family background, Mr. Zhou? Her father asked. I grew up modestly, Liam replied. My parents ran a small business before they passed away. I learned early on how to stand on my own. And what do you do now? Adrian asked with a smirk. Other than follow Emma around? Emma shot her cousin a glare, but Liam didn't flinch. Right now, I'm helping Emma with her goals, supporting her the best I can, he said. But I've also invested in a few small ventures of my own. Emma frowned slightly. That wasn't part of the backstory they had rehearsed. But before she could say anything, her father interrupted. Support is easy to promise, harder to deliver. I hope you understand the kind of pressure Emma is under. This isn't a world for weak men. Liam met his gaze calmly, with respect. Sir, Emma isn't someone who needs to be carried. She's strong enough to lead on her own. My job is to stand beside her, not in front of her. For a moment, the table fell silent. Even Emma felt her heart skip a beat. She didn't know why. His words affected her so much. After dinner, as they walked back to the car, Emma turned to him. You handled that better than I expected, she admitted. Almost like you've done this before. Liam smiled faintly. Maybe I'm just a quick learner. But as the car drove off, Liam's expression grew serious. He looked out the window, his jaw tightening. He hadn't planned to get involved like this. Pretending to be her fiancé was supposed to be simple. But as he listened to her family belittle her, as he saw the flicker of pain she tried so hard to hide, Liam felt something stir in his chest. He wanted to protect her, not because of the deal, not because of the money, but because he couldn't stand seeing her fight alone. What Emma didn't know was that Liam's past wasn't as simple as he claimed. His real identity, his power, and the enemies he had made were all shadows waiting to emerge. And when they did, Emma's carefully constructed world would be turned upside down. She thought she had hired him to play her boyfriend, but she had no idea. She had just invited a sleeping giant into her life, and soon, the line between acting and reality would blur, leaving both of them in dangerous territory neither could escape. Emma sat in her office late at night, staring blankly at the city skyline. The deal with Liam was supposed to be simple: hire a fake boyfriend, fool her family, and take back control of her life. But nothing about this had turned out the way she planned. The more time she spent with Liam, the harder it became to separate what was real from what was fake. She thought about the way he'd defended her in front of her father, the calm strength he carried even when her family tried to break him down, and the quiet moments they shared when no one was watching. Somewhere along the line, the lines had blurred, and now, she wasn't sure if she was acting anymore, but something still didn't add up. Liam wasn't just a janitor. His confidence, his poise, the way he spoke to her father without flinching, it wasn't normal. Emma wasn't the type to ignore her instincts, and her gut was telling her there was more to Liam than he was letting on. When she asked her assistant to run a quiet background check on him, she hadn't expected much. But the report sitting in front of her now made her blood run cold. Liam Joe, she whispered, her fingers tightening around the paper. He wasn't some poor, struggling worker like he claimed. He was the hidden CEO of Joe Enterprises, a man whose family's wealth rivaled her own. For years, he'd stayed out of the public eye after a scandal involving a hostile corporate takeover. No one had seen him since, and the world assumed he'd disappeared. But why would a man like that take a job as a janitor in her company? And why hadn't he told her the truth? The sound of the door opening pulled Emma out of her thoughts. Liam stepped in, holding 2 cups of coffee. I figured you'd still be awake, he said softly, setting one on her desk. Emma looked up at him, her emotions a storm she could barely control. Why didn't you tell me who you really are? For the first time since she met him, Liam didn't answer right away. He set his coffee down and sighed. Because I didn't want you to see me the way everyone else does, he said quietly. I didn't want to be another powerful man trying to control you. I wanted you to know me without the title, without the money. Emma stood, her hands trembling. So this whole time you've been playing me? You knew exactly what you were doing when you let me hire you. No, Liam said firmly, stepping closer. At first, yes. I wanted to observe you, to understand why the Chens were so afraid of you taking over the company. But the more I watched, the more I saw your strength, your kindness even when you tried to hide it. Emma, I fell for you long before you even noticed me. Emma's chest tightened, her emotions warring inside her. You lied to me. I did, he admitted, and I regret it. But everything I've done since then, every time I defended you, every time I stayed by your side, that was real. You're the first person who's ever seen me for more than my name. Tears pricked Emma's eyes, but she refused to let them fall. You've made a fool of me in front of my family. If they find out who you are, they'll think I was scheming with you from the start. Then let me fix it, Liam said. I'll tell them the truth. I'll tell them it was me chasing you, not the other way around. I'll take the blame for everything. Just don't push me away. Emma shook her head. I don't know if I can trust you, Liam stepped even closer, his voice soft but desperate. Then don't trust my words, trust my actions. Let me prove it to you. The next evening, Emma's family gathered again, this time with tension hanging in the air. Liam walked into the room, no longer hiding who he was. The Chen family's jaws dropped as he introduced himself formally. I'm Liam Zhou, CEO of Show Enterprises, he said. I wasn't honest about my identity before. That was my fault. But let me make one thing clear Emma didn't know. And she isn't using me for my status. If anything, I'm the one who's been chasing her. Her father's face darkened. Do you expect us to believe this was all some innocent coincidence? Yes, Liam said firmly. Because I've spent my life around people who use power as a weapon. Emma isn't one of them. She's the strongest, most honest person I know. And I don't care if you accept me or not, I'm not leaving her. Emma's heart pounded as her father glared at Liam, then turned his cold eyes to her. You really intend to stay with him after all this? Emma straightened her shoulders, her voice clear and steady. Yes, because for the first time, I'm not choosing out of fear or duty. I'm choosing because I want to. The silence that followed felt like an eternity. Finally, her father sighed and gestured for the servants to bring the food. You'll both regret this, he muttered, but there was no fight left in his voice. Later that night, as they drove away from the mansion, Emma stared out the window, her thoughts swirling. You really weren't afraid to risk everything back there, she said quietly. I wasn't risking everything, Liam replied softly. I was fighting for it. Emma turned to him, her walls finally beginning to crumble. So, where does that leave us now? Liam reached over and gently took her hand. That depends. Do you want this to still be fake? Or can I finally stop pretending? Emma let out a shaky laugh, her heart finally softening. Maybe. We both stopped pretending a long time ago. As the city lights blurred past them, Emma realized something she never thought possible. For years, she had fought to prove she didn't need anyone. But with Liam, she didn't feel weaker, she felt stronger. This wasn't the ending she planned. It was better.